Welcome back. My name is Madan. In this demo, we'll continue our implementation of Watchlist wizard from where we left in the previous video. So we're going to create a controller for our watchlist and view in this demo. So let's head over to the controller folder and create a new controller. Let's name it watchlist controller. Let's create a file called watchlist controller, and let's give it a namespace. It's in the namespace of mbcdemo.controllers, and let's create a class, public class of watchlist controller, and it inherits from controller. This is a class, and let's bring in the namespace for controller. Right now, next step, we're going to create a constructor here. Constructor, the watchlist controller, and in the constructor we'll be injecting the watchlist repository, iWatchlist repository. Watchlist repository. Let's bring in the namespace for iWatchlist repository, and also let's create a private variable for holding iWatchlist repository. Watchlist repository underscore watchlist repository. Now let's save. We're going to save whatever is coming through this constructor into the private field. Watchlist repository equals watchlist repository. Now we can use the watchlist repository throughout our entire class. Another thing we'll be needing is that we're gonna need the user manager. So let's bring in the user manager of application user manager, and let's bring in the namespace, and let's bring in the namespace for application user as well. Now we are also going to inject user manager into the constructor. User manager of type application user manager, and let's make it a private field, and we are also going to store the user manager into our private field user manager. Another thing is we want to bring the iClient notification, private iClient notification, and let's bring in the namespace of iClient notification. Let's bring in the namespace for iClient notification, because we are going to provide notification to the user once the item pet has been successfully added to the watch list. So we also want to inject iClient notification into our constructor. So client notification, and store the client notification into the private field underscore client notification. And let's generate the few methods. Say public iAction result index, and let's just return the view for now. Return view. Generate another method, public iAction result new, and let's generate another method, public iAction result remove, and in the new method we'll be passing the ID of the pet as a parameter from the view. So let's give it a parameter of pet ID, and once we add the item to the watch list, we want to redirect the user to the index action of the watch list. So return redirect to action name of index. So it is going to redirect the user to the index view once the new watch list has been created. Now let's create a new watch list. So let's create a watch list object. Watch list equal to new watch list, and let's pass the parameter here. In watch list we need to provide the pet ID and user ID. This pet, user, and are the navigation properties, so we don't need to provide value for those. We only need to provide pet ID and user ID and the created date. What the created date has been assigned with the default value of datetime.now, so we just need to pass the pet ID and user ID to create the watch list. So let's pass the pet ID is equal to the whatever that is coming through the parameter in the method, and let's say user ID equal to, let's say, user ID. User ID. And now we don't have user ID right now, so we need to create the user ID here. Variable user ID is equal to, we have a user manager dot get user ID, and we are going to pass http context dot user. This will give us the user ID of the currently logged in user. And now finally we need to pass this watch list to the watch list repository. So watch list repository dot create, and this method requires us to pass the watch list, which we just made it here. So we pass the watch list, and so once the watch list is created, we want to give the user a notification. So client notification dot add suite notification, and title, let's say success, and a detail message, pet has been added to watch list, and notification type dot success. Let's bring in the namespace for notification type. Notification, the notification helper success, and let's break this down into multiple line. Now let's implement the method to remove the watch list. So we are going to get the ID of the watch list here. Let's say integer ID, and once we remove the item from the watch list, we are going to redirect the user to the index section of the watch list. So let's say return redirect to action, name of index, and now we need to we need to call the repository method, watch list repository method, to remove the watch list. But our method in the watch list repository requires us to pass the watch list. So let's, if we head over back to the watch list repository, then our watch list repository remove method expects us to pass the watch list. So we need to first find the implement the method to get the single watch list by the ID. So let's head over to the watch list interface and implement the another method, watch list get watch list, and let's pass the ID. And let's implement this method here in the interface, watch list repository. We are going to implement this method here, implement interface, and this method is gonna go to the database and get the watch list based on the ID. So we are going to return that, return context dot watch list dot first or default watch list goes to watch list dot ID equal to the ID. So with this we can get variable watch list equal to underscore watch list repository dot get watch list, and we can pass the ID here to get the watch list. And once we get the ID, then we can remove the watch list from the repository. So let's say watch list repository dot remove and pass the watch list here. Once we do that, we want to give the user a notification message. So let's just copy this from here, and success notification type that success pet has been removed from watch list. And in the index method, we want to go to the watchlist repository and get all the watchlist. So let's say variable watchlist equal to watchlist repository dot get user watchlist, and this requires us to pass the user ID as a parameter. And then once we get the watchlist, we are going to pass those watchlists to the view. And first here, now we need to bring in the user ID. So let's do variable user ID equal to, we have a user manager dot get user ID, and we are going to pass http context dot user, which will give us the user ID. So this is the implementation of our watchlist controller, and our watchlist is only for the signed in user, so the anonymous user doesn't get access to our watchlist. So we are going to add a class level authorize attribute here, authorize. Let's bring in the namespace for authorize. So we have completed our controller implementation of the watchlist, and in the another video we will generate the view to interact with this controller for our watchlist. So this is the end of the demo, and thanks for watching. Have a good day.